I lost a boyfriend several years ago who died suddenly of a heart attack. And then I immediately got bronchitis right after that, right in the chest, because that's where, I had all of this pain and grief. And my body was just saying, hey, this is where you're holding it. This is what you got.
I'll keep this really short today, so we'll get right into it. My guest today is MarBeth Dunn. She is a master energy intuitive and an international speaker on the topics of world peace, inner peace, and meditation. She has been a spiritual teacher for over 35 years and mentors highly sensitive, empathic women to manage their energy and release stress. Guys, this is not just for the ladies, it's for everyone. And please remember, if you're a pet owner, be responsible and have your pets spayed or neutered.
Welcome to Amazing People, Amazing Things with your host, Chuck Tuck.
What is somatic healing? Because I'm certain that a lot of my listeners and viewers have not heard that term, but we've probably associated a lot of things with it.
So basically, what somatic healing is, it's that connection between your mind and your body. And we hold things, we hold emotions in our body. When somebody says, oh man, they stabbed me in the back, right? You might feel like the back. I feel that. If somebody feels, when I'm working with a client and they feel betrayed, I feel that in my back. I feel that stabbing in the back. Or, you could say, oh, they broke my heart. Again, that is a somatic term. Your body actually does experience a heaviness of grief, of sadness. You feel that in your chest. And you might actually, I lost a boyfriend several years ago who died suddenly of a heart attack. And then I immediately got bronchitis right after that, right in the chest, because that's where, I had all of this pain and grief. And my body was just saying, hey, this is where you're holding it. This is what you got. So, yeah, so somatic healing is basically how our body communicates with us and how we use that communication to release whatever the emotions are that are trapped in the body.
Okay. Now, correct me if I'm way off, because this is really new grounds for me. But the way I'm understanding it is, and this is what I've heard before, and I'd always say, the mind is stronger than the body, or the mind can heal the body. Is that kind of going along the right path where the body and the mind work together? And can you sort of like heal your trauma through your mind as well?
Well, it's a collaborative effort between your mind and your body.
Okay.
So for example, you're feeling that issue, the issues in the tissues, right? You're feeling
Yeah.
that pain in your chest. So what you might want, there's several ways of addressing it with your mind, where you might, but your body needs to be included here because it's the body that's holding all of the trauma and the emotions. So very often people cut themselves off from the head up, and it's, a lot of times people will say, yeah, it's all in your head, but your body's the one that's experiencing all the sensations, all of the feelings, all of these things. So it really is a collaborative effort between your mind and your body. And I guess the overall essence of it is you, not just your mind, not just your body, but, the collaboration of the two, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. And I want to ask you this because I believe you are really hoping that this helps women. I mean, you're more focused on women than men. That may sound bad in a way because this is for everyone.
I do work primarily with women who are highly sensitive. About 20% of the population is very highly sensitive, and that has been actually proven that there are a lot of us who are very sensitive and who also are empathic, which means that we feel in our bodies what other people are experiencing or maybe not experiencing in their bodies, but they're holding it emotionally in their bodies.
Okay.
And um, I had a really crazy experience about 12, 13 years ago where I basically downloaded a whole healing modality. You know, while I was working with a client, well, an almost client, I was on a strategy call with a guy in Germany, and I was sitting out on my porch in my office, and I'm looking out at the lake, and there's these beautiful storm clouds rolling in, and I got the guy up on Skype. So basically, I was starting to tell you about the first time that I developed, well, I downloaded this energy technology, where I was on a strategy call with a guy in Germany, and I'm in Florida, so we've got the ocean in between, and on a strategy call, you basically ask them, like, how are you? What's going on in your life? How can I help you? Et cetera, et cetera. So as I'm starting to talk to him, all of a sudden, like we spoke before, I felt that heaviness in my chest. And I just had a little pad right there, and I just wrote down, and this heaviness in his chest. He's grieving, and he's got sadness, because I'm also an intuitive. And so I wrote that down, and it disappeared. And now I'm feeling that stabbing pain in underneath my shoulder blade. It was like, okay, great, he feels betrayed. I'm still carrying on this conversation with him and asking him these questions, but this other dialogue is going on between his body and me. It's talking to me. It's basically saying, this is what I need help with. So I wrote down the betrayal, and then that indicator left, and now I'm feeling all these knots churning in my stomach and my solar plexus. So I wrote down that, he's got some issues with this feeling his sense of power with himself. He has this, maybe in a relationship, he feels like he's lost his power. So I wrote it down, and then that disappeared. And the next thing, I'm feeling all of this rage going on in the root chakra, which is at the base of your spine and forward underneath your torso. And I'm feeling it. And so I wrote it down, the rage. So I went through about 8 of these things. The feeling like my throat was clogged with all of these things that he wanted to say, but he wasn't saying, the expression. So anyway, I wrote down about 8 of these things, and then I just said, Franz, your body's been communicating with me. I'm an energy healer. Is it okay with you if I did some energy work? And he said, oh, yeah, sure. This was a free strategy call. He didn't care. So, so I asked I'm like at a loss here. This has never happened before. Sure, I have felt stuff, but I never realized that the body was trying to tell me something. So I asked his body, well, what do you want me to do now? And it told me. So as I did it, I was sending the energy in the correct way that it wanted. And all of a sudden I felt everything go click, 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 click. And everything like popped into place. And this guy was like feeling good. and I was like so shocked because, here as an empath, I'm feeling all of, I always feel other people's stuff. That's the technical term. But I never realized that I could use that to help them. So that was really the birth of what I call intuitive energy mastery.
Okay. Now, let me be really silly or
Yeah.
not chauvinistic sounding, but is it that women are more in tune to that, the empath, the intuitiveness, because they are considered and are, I think, more nurturing, so they feel and take on, I don't want to call it responsibilities, but they have this intuitive feeling
Yeah.
that somebody is hurting or in need of.
Right. And that we all have that feminine side. You have a feminine side too, Chuck. But it may be that the masculine side is more developed, and a lot of women have a more developed masculine side than the feminine side and aren't into the nurturing. I have friends, who work and their husbands were the caretakers of the family, and and they're very strong women. So yes, I think in general there are women that are more highly sensitive than men, but I do know men who are very highly sensitive. So I don't know that I could really generalize. I generally say that I prefer to work with women, but I work with men too. And they can be
Okay.
very, very intuitive as well.
Wow. It's how do we allow ourselves to be open to this? Because I'm thinking this is one of those situations or one of those things where people go, oh, that's just mumbo jumbo stuff. But, really, if they think about it, they, like I said, we probably are all somewhat of an empath, somewhat, because we all feel certain things. But a lot of people, maybe it's that masculinity side that you said, they push it aside. But how do we open ourselves up to it? That might sound like a silly, simple question, but
Yeah, no, it's not
uh,
silly, and so many men now are interested in like how do I access my gut feelings, so how do I access my intuition so that I make the right decisions? Because that's something I think men and women want to do. And, for so long or very often, you'll feel something and you get a sense that you should do something, but you discount it. It's like, oh, yeah, that's all that mumbo jumbo stuff. I don't, it's ridiculous. But then you don't listen to it and everything goes awry, right?
yes, and that's when we do the shoulda, woulda, coulda. I wish I would have, or I should have.
Sure. So the trick is is start. You can start like with meditating. It's a good place to start, and just open yourself up. Like I'd like to access more of my body wisdom or my intuition. And then when you do get a hit, like, oh, it would be good for me to do this. And I find like sometimes like these hits are really off the wall. It's like, are you serious? You really want me to do that? But you go ahead and do it, and things happen in the most amazing way if you start to listen to it and don't discount it. Just say, okay, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to just try now. I'm going to listen to what my body's telling me here.
I'm glad you said that because the way you're talking, it's just like somebody. You're making it sound like somebody's speaking to you, but it's that inner voice. It's that, like you said, a lot of times men will call it their gut feeling. So
Yep.
that's what you're listening to then.
Yeah, you got to, and it's your body talking. Your body's going to talk to you in its own language. And you have to learn the language. You have to learn by listening to it. We're not born with a handbook. We don't have, this guidance system that, we automatically know what we're supposed to do. I didn't know that I was an empath until about 15 years ago, maybe
Mm.
almost 20 years ago now, when I was becoming a Reiki master, which is a type of energy healing. I didn't know that I took on other people's energy. I thought there was something wrong with me, and I know a lot of people do. It's like, oh, I'm sick all the time. I can't be around other people because I catch things. Well, you might be catching is, their emotions and their feelings. So, it's,
Okay.
it's
You're making me think again of, for those out there who are listening and watching and saying, whatever. Here's what I have to say about this, and this is probably going to hit home with everyone about your intuition and where you feel. What do you do when your body says, I'm hungry? We all know that. It's telling us that's our body saying, I'm hungry. So you got to believe it, right? You got to
right.
believe and listen to your body. We all go through that. Hunger, it's like, I'm hungry. My body's telling me. So if it's telling you something else, like I said, it's your body talking to you, telling you.
Yeah, your body.
Was that corny? Was that dumb? That's
No, I thought that was great. It was actually profound, Chuck. You know, it's true. Our bodies are talking to us all the time, but we need to learn how to understand the language of the body. Sometimes it's not always that simple. Like, oh, I'm getting a gut feeling, I better listen to it. Or I'm feeling, I've got this pain in my chest or this heaviness in my chest. I must be sad about something. But so often, like we're cut off we've had something terrible happen to us. And it just was so painful that we couldn't deal with it. So we just basically cut off our feelings in the body. And maybe we went numb. So those feelings are still in the body, and the body's still going to try to tell you that it's there. But if you're not connected at all, then you can't hear it, you know. So, in some ways, I feel like a body whisperer because I can help reconnect people to their bodies. But if you can start to reconnect, like say you start to do yoga, I know that's a lot of men do yoga in addition
Mhm.
to women. It's a really good way to reconnect that body mind. Qigong or Tai Chi are really good, at becoming very grounded in your body and starting to understand that connection between and how to release all these, stress, anxiety, all of that curse of the modern world, where we feel all that stuff, that stress, that anxiety, and we don't know what to do with it. Well, we got great ways of releasing it, and helping you to feel calmer and more peaceful so that you can, you know, understand a little more about what's going on with your body.
Now, will your book kind of guide people through like an interpretation of possibly what their gut feeling or whatever it is that they're feeling? Is there something like a guide to help interpret things?
Well, yeah, I discuss the energy system of the body, the chakra system, and what each of the chakras mean, because that's a really good way to understand, like, oh, if my body is knotting up in the solar plexus, then that's my power center. That's, where I might be feeling like my personal power is being thwarted by someone. Or, if I'm feeling like my throat's feeling congested, then, I realize like, oh, maybe I'm not saying what I need to say. Or maybe I've got too many emotions up here that I haven't really expressed, and like all of these different power centers have different messages for us, shall we say.
Mm.
Like we have our heart center. Well, that's a center for love, right? And actually joy. But if we're feeling like a pain there, it's letting us know, like, oh, I'm feeling grief, I'm feeling sadness. And often a way to just release it is to just sit with the feeling and let it be. And a lot of times these feelings just really want to be acknowledged and then they just dissipate on their own. Not all the time, but that's one way. I think it's
Oh.
just good to, just go outside and walk in nature and just kind of be aware of all the nature all around you. That's being right here and present. So you're that's what they call mindfulness. So you're right here in the present moment and you're experiencing everything around you. You're hearing the birds, you're smelling the flowers, you're hearing the rustling of the trees, and you're just experiencing your feet on the ground, maybe the sun on your skin or the breeze. So you're having this whole sensual experience while you're there, and it brings you into that present moment. And that's a really powerful place to be. There are a lot of ways to
It's
get there, but it also really helps you to be, I'm here, I'm present now, what's happening in my body, what do I need to know, you know.
it certainly sounds very calming, soothing, and I don't know if this is the correct word, but meditative. Just just you voicing that put me in that place and made me feel that, even though
Good.
I wasn't walking it, just hearing it and envisioning it.
You can listen to meditations that will take you to a happy place on the beach, on the sand, and you're feeling the warmth of the sand. And you know, when you engage all of your senses, it brings you right into the here and now, which is really your pivotal point of power. Your power is not in the past. You can't change that. you can maybe go back and release, the hurt and the pain from there. And that's one of the things that we do in my book. And you can also think about the future, but you really don't have any power in the future because you're not there yet. So where you have the power is right here and now. And how to get there, you can do it through using your senses, through like a meditative walk or a meditation, or using breath work, which can also calm you down, release any stress or anxiety. There are lots of ways to do it.
Wow. It's I will use that word profound, but what you're just now saying just kind of really hit home where the power is not in the past because you can't change the past. Your power is as of present. And now, at least I'm looking at it as that gives me also the power to guide my future.
What I strive to do in my practice and in my book is really empower people to take control of their own lives. And I'm happy to be, a guide or a Sherpa, and help people along the way. But there's so many amazing techniques now, like back in the 70s, people were just starting to think about, these psychiatrists, psychologists were starting to talk about somatic experiencing, somatic this, somatic that. But I hadn't really, learned about it. I mean, I was living it, and learning techniques that because I needed the help. I had a lot of trauma in my past, and it's just really wonderful, to have these techniques that can empower people to take control. And if you're feeling anything that is making you uncomfortable, you can release it, and it just empowers you and just gives you so much more space to be.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely empowering, as you're saying, but this gives us, all of us, the opportunity to take control of our lives. And the way I feel is a lot of us have lost control, one way or another, and that could be everything from diet type of thing, emotional, your love, but we can regain our control by listening to our body and listening to our mind, and doing the things that you're talking about. I just want to make sure people know that aside from knowing your name, MarBeth Dunn, they can actually go to marbethdunn.com.
One of the things I want to stress is that my number one goal when I'm working with people is that they feel safe. Because so often, when we've been traumatized as children or as adults, we may not feel safe in our bodies. And that's so important. That's like the number one thing, that you feel good, you feel safe. So, but our bodies have so much, they have so many things to tell us. Can I tell you a very short story? I was just
Please,
thinking
yes.
about this. It's about the time I spoke on a law of attraction cruise from a wheelchair. And the reason is, I know, right? Law of attraction, basically where we attract things into our lives. I was scheduled to go speak on this law of attraction cruise. I used to have a radio show on the Law of Attraction radio network. And I was scheduled to speak there, and I was pressuring myself with thinking that I had to pre-record all of these radio shows and pre-write all of these blogs. And I was putting so much pressure on myself. I could feel it building up in my chest. And guess who was not listening to her body? Yeah, I did not listen. And I just, I could just feel the pressure building. And I didn't need to do that to myself. When you work for yourself, you make your own rules, right? I didn't have to do either of those things. I could have just put everything on, just play some recordings for my show and not rewrite the blog for a couple of weeks. But no, I was pressuring myself. So I stood up and I stepped on a plug, like a wall plug. And so, yep, I spoke on the Law of Attraction cruise from a wheelchair. Yep. because I did not listen to my body.
Yeah, your body will let you know.
My body was saying, slow down, stop this, don't pressure yourself.
Oh
I didn't
gosh.
listen.
Well, I want to say that this has been fun. I mean, not only informative, but it's been fun, and it's just reassured me to listen to my body and listen to my brain, listen to my gut feeling, my intuition, and just be open to it. So I'm going to be more open and paying more attention to what my body is telling me, both in health, well, mainly in health, and that yeah, it's going to make me better.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love your openness, Chuck. No, this has really
Uh,
been fun. I've really enjoyed it.
yeah, well, folks out there, the audience, listen to yourself. You know, and listen to your body, and uh, let us know how things are going. Marbeth, I want to say thank you very much for your time today. This has been fantastic. And could you let us know once again your book title, the full title on that?
Sure, it is Somatic Healing, here we go, the proven method to unleash your energy, vitality, and joy.
There it is, folks. Look for it. Marbeth, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. I really enjoyed this.